This is Rostra, the St. Theodore Guerin Junior Classical League podcast, where we bring the lessons of classical study into the light for the benefit of all. Welcome back to a very special final episode of Rostra. It's unbelievable that this is episode 30 of our first season. And so we got some very special guests, a totally different kind of episode today, as we do a little bit of a wrap-up. And to start us off, I want to introduce you to who our special guests are. So if each person could take a moment, just give us your name and who are you within the life of our school.
Sure, James McNeely, principal of Guerin Catholic.
Hi, my name is Dominic Warngello, and I am a third year in Latin.
Sarah Wagner, first year Latin.
Hi, and I'm John Lux, and I'm a history teacher at Guerin Catholic.
Fantastic. So what this is all about, and I sent an email out to students and faculty and everybody, said let's get together a few people, some former guests of the show and some people who have listened to the show, just to kind of have a little retrospective and say, hey, what did you like about the show? What did you like about listening to it? What did you like about doing it as you were one of our guests? And also maybe even some things that hey, it'd be cool if we did X next year, if we did something different or whatever. So just really interested to see where this conversation will take us. And just because of the kind of way we're arranged, it kind of just fits naturally. I kind of want to go back and forth from a person who's purely a listener, one of our audience, and it's so great. We had over 1,200 listens to the show over the course of the year, which is really cool. We'll go back and forth from a listener to a former guest. So start off, Mr. McNeely, our principal. So what did you like about it? and I will say this, you were one of the first people to reply when I sent the email out about, hey, can we get some other guests on the show? You replied right away, said, I would love to do it if it's not already, spots have not already filled up. So we really appreciate you taking the time to be here with us. What did you like about this show?
Yeah, well, I think, first of all, we've talked before that we're both kind of aficionados of podcasts. I think it's just a great way to keep up on things, find areas of interest, listen, and all at the same time, if you fall behind or you miss an episode, well, they're right there. You can just go back and find them and search them very easily. So from that standpoint, I love what you're doing. Certainly I've learned some things about Latin culture that I didn't learn before, that I didn't know, but I think probably looking at this from a principal level, what I like this is just the idea that this is really student creation. This is something where I don't know how much you've really talked about that within your podcast of how this fits within your classroom, or really how much freedom you give these students, but it's really, they say, yes, I want to be on it, and they completely pick the topic, right? And they bring it forward, and you just give them that free rein to do their research, to have a conversation with them. And I feel like that's very, those are the kind of skills that we want to build in our students, right? To do their own research, find their own passion, and just be able to communicate that. Yeah, and
you bring that up, of course, and then we've got Mr. Lux here, a fellow teacher as well. We see that, and I imagine that, like Dom and Sarah, you might not even be thinking about that, which you probably even shouldn't be thinking about that as students, but that's exactly right. That's what I like, because you're exactly right. We have a list of topics to choose from, but the number one topic is student choice. So you can pick from any of the list of things, or you want to do something entirely different, that's fine. And then once you've picked whatever, you get into it on your own. You do your own research, blah, 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 blah. So you're exactly right. That's certainly what we like as educators. So Sarah, I want to pop over to you as a former guest.
Yeah.
Think about back to your episode and just the doing of it. In fact, you did too, right? You're one of our few repeat guests this season. What did you like about doing it? And you can think about anything from the looking stuff up aspect, the research aspect, exploring the topic, or the actual recording of it, sitting in, with a microphone and doing it? So what did you like about doing
I
it?
definitely felt very smart when I was researching. Like, I felt like I could and then when I was just like, man, I could reuse this in college and I'll get an A.
Bingo. I love that, right? Because so much stuff that you do in high school, if you do it well, it's got some life to it.
Yeah.
Right? You could use it in another class in high school, or you could reuse it perhaps in college and go even deeper. And so, do you remember what your two topics were? I would actually have to go back and look at our show notes and see.
I'm trying to remember my first.
It was way back.
I remember, like, maybe my first one was, like, maybe I had to do, like, the assassination of... No, I had to do something with, like, a relation... Oh, man, I don't remember. It was, like, with some, like, these two. Like, it's, like, Cleopatra and...
Yeah, Mark Antony.
Yeah, or Mark Antony.
Yes,
Cleopatra.
yes, yeah.
And the second one was my choice, and I picked, like, really bad Roman emperors, like Caligula.
You were the
Nero.
bad Roman emperors.
Yeah,
right.
that was student choice.
Right, now you picked the total student choice on that. So, I don't want to pick on you, Mr. Lux, just because you do teach social studies and history and so forth, and obviously there's a lot of history and culture and so forth in this particular podcast, so you may even like it for other reasons. But, if I may, why did you ever listen to this?
Yeah, I think it was one of those things, just side conversations with you and seeing what you were doing in the classroom. And then when I saw you were doing a podcast, I thought, wow, that sounds amazing. Because like what Mr. McNeely was saying, man, I love podcasts. I just think it's a great way to get information, especially things that you're passionate about. And I think that's one of my favorite things that interested me once I did jump into your podcast is kind of exactly what all three of you had been talking about, like the student choice, hearing you ask them why they were doing that at the beginning of every podcast, and then just hearing their excitement and their passion. It was really fun. I remember vividly a few of them even saying, like, I didn't know what to expect, but then I found this out, and I was just like, I knew a little bit about this, but then once I started to research, that discovery of learning was very evident, I think.
I was one of those people.
Yeah, in that podcast. I think that's what Mr. McNeely was talking about a little bit. And I think that's the greatest thing about it. It has this like one-on-one feel that's just very safe and comfortable. And
Gosh, you just said so much stuff in there. First off, there's the discovery piece.
Yeah.
And we actually had an episode not too long ago where I think it was one of the ones where we had two guests. In fact, it might have been Dominic, the one with your sister, where they were saying they chose the topic they did because they didn't know some stuff. And like some people will pick a topic, hey, I really know that and I really love it. Maybe I just want to go deeper. And they actually picked something because they wanted to get something they did not know before. So they wanted to discover, and so that was really cool. But the other piece, which I loved, is your use of that word safe. It's just a conversation,
it is.
Right? And this is just what we do. We, as human beings, we all sit around and discuss stuff.
Yeah.
And what have you learned? Maybe it's about politics, maybe it's about sports, whatever. But that's what real learning is. So, Dominic, I'm curious for you. Why did you want to get involved with Rostra just even the first time?
Well, I'd say definitely the first time I want to get involved with it because I just want to learn more about something that I was interested in. I've always been interested in Greek history, and I love it. And I wanted to dive a little bit more deeper into Persian history and those types of cultures and the wars between Greece and Persia. So I started researching that, and I got really, really interested. And then I ended up writing my history IA on it. So.
Oh, wow. Now, for those who don't understand, they're using the lingo there. IA is internal assessment. We're a school that offers the International Baccalaureate Diploma, and that's one of the pieces to that. So you actually took some of the stuff that you did for your episode, and again, kind of like what Saren was talking about, hey, this could be cool, I could do something with this in college. You actually found a way to expand that for something else that you're doing here at school.
Yes.
That is very cool. We also have another one of our former guests. We've got Kyle Taylor with us. And Kyle, just kind of on this first round, what we're talking about is why did you want to do a rostra? Or another way to phrase that, or kind of another version, is what did you get out of it?
I kind of like doing the rush just because you could go in and go back in more of the history aspect and see what happened back then, and I more of went back for kind of like dumb battle aspects, except I went more of European area of the German and Rome battle.
Right. Which, if I may say, we are like almost never going to get into that, ever, in class, because there's only so much stuff that you can do, even in 4 years. And love for you to take as many years as you possibly could, but we can never get into everything. Right, so that's why something like this has that opportunity for somebody to go deeper in terms of their own personal interest. Yeah, Sarah.
I have something to add. It just came to mind. Like I think we were talking about how this is like very safe, like this like conversation. Because like I noticed that this is like just feels like this is like a lot easier to do than like a whole presentation about the same thing. Just to sit up awkwardly in front of everyone and like have to like regurgitate a PowerPoint. And like I feel like just having a conversation is a lot better way to like articulate the information.
Oh, I love the way you said that. Conversation is a better way to articulate the information. And the other thing about the format of the podcast, and both Mr. Lux and Mr. McNeely, you were talking about enjoying listening to podcasts. Podcasts are a real thing. And what I mean by that, and you gentlemen both have children, maybe you experience this with yours as well. I know when our children were little, we could give them the big plastic toy version of something, right? Be it a power tool or dishes or whatever. And our children almost always put that aside and gravitated to the real thing, right? They went for the real screwdriver. They went for the real drill, and you're going, no. But there's something about children that they naturally want something that's real and not fake. And as good as a presentation is with a poster board or whatever, there's still a little bit of a fake thing to it. But podcasting is real, right? So there's hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there, and so it's a real opportunity for them. So I want to throw this out there for everybody, in just whatever order anybody wants to chime in on this. As you've listened to this, is there something that could go differently? And I want to be sure to say differently, not necessarily better. Because you may say, I think it was really good. I don't know if there's anything better, but maybe there's something a little different. Or there may be something you say, you know what, that actually, there was an aspect of the show that wasn't that great. Maybe it could be better. So either better or different, whether in terms of anything from sound quality. Should we include video? Should it can remain audio only? Do we need to publish more in terms of show notes, which, again, a lot of podcasts will have lots of links and show notes and stuff in there. Should they be longer? Should they be shorter? And I will say, out in the podcasting world, there's all kinds of thoughts out there. People are like, it really shouldn't be any longer than 10 minutes, and other people are like, it go for an hour, and so all that kind of stuff. So let your minds kind of think they're different or better. Doesn't have to be, again, better, could just be different. Sarah, you already got some thoughts. What are you thinking?
I have like a few. Maybe like when like this podcast like gets like more listeners, maybe also improve the microphone from.
Absolutely, and
this is, I don't mean it bad to like what you have now, but it's just like when if it was to like grow like a lot more, the listeners are probably going to expect like a higher sound quality than.
You're absolutely right. Sound quality is one of the biggest drivers of media consumption. Sound even more than the visual. And so you're right. And we can certainly do an external mic and maybe do some other stuff in that regard.
And also like there was and also like show notes. They the show could use like a few show notes, like just like something in a description about like some resources where you can learn more about this. Or blah, blah, blah.
And I will say, I've already been thinking about that and making that a part of what the students bring to the episode is, in addition to what you're going to share on the podcast, include at least 2 links or whatever, right? So that then when we get ready to publish that could go. So appreciate that.
And also I was thinking like maybe like, so like this is like an academic podcast, but there's also like podcasts that might have like more like, you know how like more of the popular podcasts, they seem to like have their own personality or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe you could like try to incorporate that into Rostra somehow. Maybe it'd be like the Ducks or like something to like seem to like want to like bring viewers
And
like more like
yeah.
that makes them coming back every time.
And for our listeners who don't know what you mentioned when you just used the word ducks, the room in which we record this has nearly 200 rubber ducks in it. So something like that.
Yeah.
Other thoughts from any of the
I
folks
feel like
around
I added
here?
a lot, but it's just like
No, that's all very good. Yeah.
It's very
I
fast.
would say, so you mentioned the, like, maybe add video or stuff that way. I was going to say, like, maybe for certain things that are talked about, like for the, what Romans used to wear, or for like battles or stuff, you include a picture so that way people could get like a visual idea of what went on, or have a image of like where it was taking place.
Sure.
But there's also like some people who's just like who may rather just have their voice than like be also on a video on top of that.
Well, and I will say that was one thing a lot of students seemed to be very grateful for, was not having to be on video themselves. Now, again, we can still maybe incorporate a graphic when we go to edit and publish. But you're right as far as that goes. Yeah, I want to hear from our colleagues as well here.
Well, I think whenever I think one of the things that why podcasts appeal to me is because I can multitask. I know that's kind of a bad word in education sometimes, but really, there's a lot of times when I'm in the car driving my kids around. That's a great time to listen to podcasts. I'm mowing the grass. I can listen to a podcast. There's just, I'm doing the dishes. I can listen to a podcast. So there's just certain times like that it's an opportunity to learn and to add that. And so from that part, I enjoy just that I don't necessarily have to watch a show and all that. Kyle, by the same token, absolutely. There's some things when I hear it get described or I see that and I think, oh my goodness, I wonder what that might look like. So I totally get where you're coming from on that. But
There's like some podcasts will just tell if you want to know what this looks like, Google this, and like you could like do that. They seem you could like maybe just like do that.
Sure, like you mentioned, like in the show notes, for more information, go to blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much what Mr. McNeely was saying. He knocked out the basically the 3 times I listened to podcasts as well. So simplicity is huge, and I think that's what I love about your podcast is I don't have to prep, right? Like I don't have to be an expert on it before I listen. So I like you said, everything that you're doing just makes it very accessible to me, and like Mr. McNeely said as well, like. I can be doing a lot of things. That being said, I think about some of my favorite podcasts. I'm sure a lot of people have heard, like Father Mike's podcast. Just that one-on-one time with you guys at the beginning is great, but also maybe some time at the end to analyze some of the stories that we were talking about. How can we apply it to today? The story that we learned, something like that. Just that extra application.
I like that.
And, I mean, I don't know how well it fits with every topic. But being a history teacher, I love those different connections that we can make, how we see it in our lives to today.
Well, and I wonder about, along with that, and I really do want to throw that out to everybody here, what would you think about occasionally having a non-student guest, maybe a faculty member? What would you think about opening it up to non-Latin students at the school? Just anybody who's interested in the ancient world, so you don't just have to be a Latin student. I don't know.
I'm down for that if they somehow like find out. I mean, if they actually have something to say, then like I don't see why not.
Okay.
Honestly, because like you already have like I guess we're like trusting a bunch of high schoolers to come up with. So I think we could probably trust like, and even like, and I guess I also feel like sometimes it's a bit limiting, like because like it's like just Latin students. Well, what if like a French kid wanted or like a Spanish kid wanted to
Absolutely. Absolutely. Who still might have some interest in the ancient world and some of that kind of stuff. Dom, I know you're a leader in so many different aspects of the school and beyond. Any thoughts that you have as you think about whether it's improvement or just going in a slightly different direction, or you're like, don't change a thing?
I think it's a great idea. I mean, I have a lot of friends who are not necessarily interested in the Latin aspect, although some may be, but really interested in that history aspect, that ancient history, and they're very, very passionate about that. And I think they would love an outlet to express that and to like, they've learned all this stuff, they study all this stuff just for fun. In fact, I have a friend who studied all the Persian provinces and like memorized all the satrapies. It's crazy impressive.
I know
And So I think that just a medium to express that could be really helpful for someone who's just learning for fun.
Yeah. Well, again, we want to keep. Oh, yeah, Mr. McNeely.
Well, no, I think that would be a great idea too, and I love the idea too of connecting the ancient world with the current world. I watched 60 Minutes recently talking about how important Taiwan is to United States and China. Why? Because of trade routes through in there. Now, Dominic, Mr. Perkins, you could probably name me off the top of your head 5 times in history where 2 mega powers were at odds because there's some territory, some passageway, some sea route, right? That was up for grabs. It was a key element in trade, right? That goes through there, and I just love that idea of and here's the other reason why I love it, because now that I'm old, I see that relevance. I was so naive and short-sighted when I was a young person, right? I mean, I distinctly remember thinking to myself, boy, if I could have only been alive in like the 1800s, I would have been the smartest person there, right? What great humility I had when I was 16 or 17. But I think so many times we don't realize that some of the struggles and the things that we're dealing with right now, the world has seen it many times over, so much so that you might even be able to predict the outcome, right? If you look at things. So great aspect, and anytime we can use a podcast or any other medium to connect, those 2 things, I think we all benefit.
Definitely connections all the ball. Yeah, Kyle.
So I have a suggestion for the podcast. I would say maybe very occasionally, because I know this is the only time that I am aware of that we've done like 5 guests on at once. Maybe like every now and again, I don't know when you would have to maybe figure that out, but like have more than just one person on at a time and talk about different topics.
Do a panel.
Yeah. Kind
of a panel discussion, and there'll necessity be a little bit longer episodes so that people could have time to speak. I do want to just respect everybody's time here, and so we want to try to keep this brief. So I just want to go just quick, kind of around the table if we could. Should we continue with a season 2, and why? So we've done season 1. This is our 30th episode, and we could put a bow on it and say, what a great time was had by all, and we're done. And just, kind of one-hit wonder, right? Do you think we should continue with this, and why? So let's start over here, Mr. Lux.
All right, yeah. I think that's a definite yes. I would say for 2 reasons. One, that first reason that you had already mentioned with your example about the power tools, it gives them, all of your students, just this really genuine, real tool to kind of show their learning. And the second goes with that learning. Every episode that I listened to, the kids were genuinely excited and enthusiastic when they were on the show. So seeing that real opportunity to put themselves out there on a podcast, and then just anytime kids are excited about learning, I think we got to jump all over that. So those would be my 2 reasons why you should.
Sounds good. Saren.
Yeah, I'll definitely agree. I'll second that. I'll agree, this should continue because, also we mentioned earlier that, a lot of kids, you can, consider this as, an outlet for, what they learned because they're so excited about it. And I think, and plus, also, even if it was some kids did it for extra credit, at least that extra credit opportunity is still there for them.
Okay.
There's something else. Ooh. I had something else in mind.
Don't worry, that happens all the time.
Yeah, it happens to the best of us. All right, we can come back if you think of it. Dominic, what do you say, yay or nay, and why?
Let's say yay, for a couple reasons. I know it was a great experience for me. My sister had a great time doing it as well. Just the whole experience of learning something, being able to speak about it, and then going through that process of being on a podcast was something I think very unique, and not a lot of people will get to experience that. I think a lot more people would love it if we continued.
Okay, very cool. Mr. McNeely.
Well, I would also vote in the affirmative. I think first of all, 30 episodes in season 1. You're the hardest working guy in show business. That's pretty impressive. But no, I think anytime when you're looking at a season 2, do I continue? Does a company continue on a product line? Whatever that is, you kind of have to step back and ask yourself, am I providing something? Am I providing media, or either for the consumer or for the person who's putting it on? Is this a unique opportunity? And I think it is. We don't have another really student-run or subject area podcast out there associated with our school. So I think it provides a really unique opportunity for our students and the community to get a little taste of what happens here in the classroom at Guerin Catholic.
And Kyle, what are your thoughts?
I would say we bring back a second season because, like, you will have, like, those that will come back and maybe do some similar ones to what have maybe already happened for the extra credit opportunities. But then you could have, like, the rare ones that come through, like what I did with mine, where you have one that's not known well and they introduce people to something that not many people know about, or something that happened that made a huge impact on the world when it did.
Yeah. Well, I got to say, my inclination is to come back, do this again for season 2.
And also, I had something else to add.
Oh yeah,
I
what
remember
do you
it
have, Sarah?
was. And also, I think I would remember like looking at like Spotify Wrapped. They came out with one for like your roster, and there was like people actually listening to your.
Yes.
Yeah, there's like people in like Philippines and
Yes.
UK, and so like at least there seems to be people outside of Guerin listening.
Yeah, that was very cool. And that was really cool that Spotify
And I remember
provided that.
like I think like one of like the Latin teachers when you're just like at like I think it was like a state thing. She was like went up to you about Rostra, so
Yeah.
like I could tell that. So and even though it's like really small and considered in the world of podcast, I mean I feel like it does have potential to like grow up to like
Sure.
something pretty big.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like we might be back for a second season, and who knows, we might be seeing some of you back as guests again next year. Everybody, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to Rostra. You may check out all our episodes on Spotify and follow us on social media at GuerinJCL. That's at GuerinJCL.